Axel Rudakubana Southport knife killer pleads guilty to murdering 3 girls at Taylor Swift dance class. Axel Rudakubana, of Banks, Lancashire, changed his plea on day 1 of a trial at Liverpool Crown Court where he was charged with the murders of Alice de Silva Aguiar, 9, B.B. King, 6, and Elsie Stenkham, 7. An 18-year-old has pleaded guilty to murdering 3 girls in a knife attack at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class in Southport last year. Axel Rudakubana, of Banks, Lancashire, changed his plea on day 1 of a trial at Liverpool Crown Court where he was charged with the murders of Alice de Silva Aguiar, 9, B.B. King, 6, and Elsie Stenkham, 7, who died following the attack at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class at the Hart Space shortly before midday on July 29. Rudakubana, who it can now be reported had been reported to the government's Prevent Counter-Extremism scheme at least 3 times, also pleaded to 8 counts of attempted murder in relation to 8 other children, who cannot be named. He has also pleaded guilty to the attempted murders of Leanne Lucas and Jonathan Hayes and admitted the possession of a bladed article in a public place, namely a kitchen knife with a curved blade. The 18-year-old, who entered the dock wearing a gray prison-issue jumper and wearing a blue medical face mask, also pleaded guilty to production of a biological toxin, namely ricin, and possession of information of a kind likely to be useful to a person committing or preparing an act of terrorism, namely a PDF file entitled Military Studies in the Jihad Against the Tyrants. The Al-Qaeda training manual. Appearing at Liverpool Crown Court this morning, the 18-year-old admitted all offences following the attack on July 29 last year. When he was asked to stand, he originally remained seated. He also stayed silent when asked to speak his name. The officers confirmed that proceedings can be heard in the dock. Rudakubana was asked to speak his name again but again remained silent. Stanley Rice KC, defending, said, "The defendant hasn't identified himself, but there isn't any dispute that the man in the dock is Axel Rudakubana and he can hear what's being said." Mr. Justice Goose asked, "He's not choosing to speak." He then asked if the indictments could be repeated when Rudakubana entered the guilty pleas. Justice Goose told him, "Axel Rudakubana, you can hear me, I know. You have now pleaded guilty to this indictment to each of the charges upon it. The next stage is for sentence. That will take place on Thursday. In the meantime, you must keep in touch with your barristers, solicitors and the intermediary in order for you to receive any advice or assistance. You will understand it's inevitable that a life sentence will be imposed upon you. In the meantime, you go with the officers and be produced at that hearing at 11 o'clock on Thursday. Take him down." Rudakubana was escorted to the cell by the dock officers. He will be sentenced on Thursday. Speaking after the pleas were entered, Justice Goose told the court, "I am conscious of the fact the families are not here today." Deanna here KC, prosecuting, confirmed the families had not attended as it was assumed the trial would open on Tuesday. Axel Rudakubana's shock change of plea meant the loved ones of his young victims were not in court to hear him admit his guilt. His pleas came as a surprise to the judge. Lawyers and press crammed into a packed courtroom at Liverpool Crown Court. The hearing, expected to deal with legal matters at the start of a 4-week trial, instead lasted little more than 15 minutes. There had been no inkling to anyone the defendant would change his plea. Mr. Justice Goose said, "I am conscious of the fact the families are not here today. You have now pleaded guilty to this indictment and to each of the charges upon it." He added, "You will understand it is inevitable the sentence to be imposed upon you will mean a life sentence equivalent will be imposed upon you. I will have to complete the sentencing process on that occasion." Deanna here KC, prosecuting, confirmed the families had not attended court on Monday as it was assumed the trial would open on Tuesday. Mr. Justice Goose said he extended his apologies to the families that for that reason they weren't here to hear him enter his pleas. Ms. Deere said she would speak to them ahead of the sentencing on Thursday. Mr. Justice Goose said he extended his apologies to the families that for that reason they weren't here to hear him enter his pleas. She said she would speak to them before the sentence on Thursday. Speaking outside court following the guilty pleas entered by Axel Rudakubana, Deputy Chief Crown Prosecutor Ursula Doyle said, "This was an unspeakable attack, one which left an enduring mark on our community and the nation for its savagery and senselessness. At the start of the school holidays, A day which should have been one of carefree innocence, of children enjoying a dance workshop and making friendship bracelets, became a scene of the darkest horror as Axel Rudakubana carried out his meticulously planned rampage. It is clear that this was a young man with a sickening and sustained interest in death and violence. He has shown no sign of remorse. The prosecution was determined to prove his guilt, and I am deeply grateful that today's plea has spared the families at the heart of this case the pain of having to relive their ordeal through a trial. Today, our thoughts are with all those whose lives were altered by what happened on that day. Most of all, we think of Elsie, Bibi, and Alice, the three beautiful young girls whose lives were cut short, and wish strength and courage to the families who loved and cherished them. Dance teacher Leanne Lucas was overseeing a Taylor Swift-themed dance class in Southport, Merseyside, on July 29 when a male entered the building armed with a knife and attacked children and adults. Bibi, Alice, and Elsie died after the stabbing at the heart space. Their 35-year-old teacher suffered serious stab wounds while trying to protect two girls. Earlier on Monday, the Home Secretary said the whole country is thinking of the families of those killed in the Southport knife attack as the man accused of their murders went on trial. Speaking before Rudakubana's pleas were changed to guilty, Home Secretary Yvette Cooper said, "This will be a deeply traumatic and distressing time for the families of Alice, Bibi and Elsie, the survivors, and the people of Southport, and the whole country will be thinking of them. The most important thing for all of us is to ensure that the legal process can take its course, to respect the difficult job the court has to do, so there is a fair trial and justice can be done. There will be a time at the end of this trial to discuss what happened and the action needed in response to this horrific tragedy. But for now, and until the proceedings have concluded, the priority for all of us must be to ensure justice is done."